Coming up on this chat,
You
Tailor.
can't move away from tailoring. So
Okay.
always think of Taylor Swift. Yeah.
tailoring CV.
Do get your point. It's
No,
a
I
lot
get
of
yours.
work.
I'm not
Yeah.
arguing.
No,
It's
no,
just
no.
that
We are
certain
having a
points,
debate.
depending on the context.
Hello.
Hello and good morning, everyone.
Good to see you again.
Always Shiv, and I'm super excited because today we are talking CVs, small CVs, big CVs, all about CVs, because we have so many multiple questions on a daily basis about CVs. So my first one for you, Shiv, is why are CVs important?
Because they're the first point that you apply for a job. And the issue that a lot of people have is they kind of think, I'm going to have a golden CV that is going to answer everybody's job requests. And they don't, because you can't. So I think that's the biggest first hurdle you've got to get past. The need to look at the job description, to actually read it, and to make sure your CV reflects that job description. I think that is vital.
Okay, so we're just saying that for each job, you need to tailor your CV. Really, that's what we're getting at.
Yes.
Yeah.
Even if it's the same industry that you're applying to, it's a different company. So think about your cover letter. How are you going to talk about your motivation? I always used to love going on employer visits to someone like Deloitte or PwC, and they'd say, oh, the number of ones we get where they don't remember to change the name. She goes, some of them are quite funny. It's something as simple as basic as that, taking the time, making it good.
Make it tailored. And the other thing is around keywords or the key abilities or skills employers are looking for. So they're very, very specific in their vocabulary of using those words. So if one company uses client management, the other one is talking about stakeholder management. So it's very simple and easy just to replace the relevant words for the right job description.
It's about talking back to them in their language.
Exactly, yeah. And that's always helpful. So in my head, if you are a professional with 5 years work experience or less, 1 page should suffice. If you're more than that, move to 2 pages. That's for me, but I know for different industries.
I mean, for engineering, they'd want some skills and they would like evidence of skills, not the shopping list of skills.
So you put your project and so on.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll go back and we start from the top.
Okay.
What we put on the top?
So name, contact mobile, personal email. I would use my university one for as long as I possibly could, or use one that isn't a funny, quirky email. Some recruiters don't like Yahoo or, sort of big name ones where they get bombarded with spam. So just be aware of that. And that's where a university email can be really helpful. But I'd also put my LinkedIn profile.
Yeah.
I'd make sure my LinkedIn profile was good.
Yeah. But also make sure the URL for your LinkedIn profile is tailored.
Yes.
Cleared of all the additional digits that come after your name. So going back to the email address, remember that normally universities will allow you to use the university-related email address for probably a year after graduation.
I think it depends,
after that, you have a graduate account.
Yeah.
And depending on your university, at Warwick, we have the Warwick grad account. And I always encourage people to use it because it immediately demonstrates to everyone that you have connection with the top university. What about postal address?
I wouldn't put it on.
Here you go. I'm with you on that one.
I think you don't need it because they're not going to respond by letter anymore. But if you're an international student, you might want to say something like living in the Coventry area because it shows you're in the UK. But again, I think that's very much a personal thing. I know some recruiters like the idea of knowing someone who's flagged up their international is in the UK because it's easier to hire them in the UK. So that's the only point there. So you could put Coventry based or...
But if you have mobile number in the UK, doesn't this already demonstrate that
Yes, but a lot of international students won't list it like a home student will.
Yeah, they'll put +44.
Yeah. So immediately that flags up, oh, you're not a home student.
Yeah.
So I'm just going on what a recruiter said to me.
Okay. Yeah. Next section. Personal profile. Yes, no?
I personally hate them. I've seen too many bad ones. I think that's the problem,
thing, isn't it? Yeah, and it's very difficult to write a good one.
Yes. I think if you're going to do a career objective, if you're talking about, recent graduate looking for a career in cyber with knowledge of brilliant. Short, sweet, and to the point. using the KISS system. Keep it simple.
I like it. And I think I'll use personal profile if I don't submit a cover letter. If I have a cover letter, I'll just avoid the
I would
personal
always
profile.
submit a cover letter as well.
Always?
Yeah, because you can talk about your motivation in that.
Yeah, but they're not always read.
No, but you'd be surprised the number that they come back to. Again, speaking to recruiters, they say, we might not read it immediately, but we will come back to the cover letter.
Okay.
Because it is the motivation for why you've applied.
It is.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah, this is typical.
You
You never get people to agree.
Yeah. Just because I'm aware it's a number game. I know people, recent graduates, complete 85 applications a week. You can't tailor 85 cover letters. So I'm always try to be savvy with your time.
Yeah.
So for me, if cover letter is not required at this stage, don't do it.
Yeah, I would still say do it. And I wouldn't be doing 85 applications a week. No way. That's inhumane. I would be saying focus. Do 10 if you can. And I think that will kill you. Just to tailor 10 really good CVs.
I know.
Yeah.
If I apply for a job, I spend 2 weeks completing my job application.
But you apply for one job.
I apply for one job. And it takes me a lot of time to process, to think, to live it, to understand. Because for me, a job advert or a job description tells me, okay, the organization needs someone to solve a specific problem. So I'm trying to figure out what this problem is and how I, with my experience, skill set, can help them solve the problem.
So yours are perfectly tailored to what they're
but I spent a lot of time on that.
And this is what you've got to be prepared to do, particularly as you climb the ladder. You've got to be incredibly focused. You've got to use your networking to find out when these opportunities are coming out as well. So I think when you're starting out, it's much broader, but you still have to tailor. You can't move away from tailoring. So always think of Taylor Swift. Yeah.
Tailoring CV.
Exactly.
Second point, education or work experience first?
Well, what have you been doing recently? I spoke to a recruiter again. So it comes back to this. And they say, well, we get confused when they put their work experience first and they've been at university because they go, oh, they're unemployed. And you go, no, they've been studying. And well, why don't you tell me that first? When a CV is written, it's always about what you've done most recently. What you've done most recently is your degree, your master's, your PhD, whatever. So talk about it. I think a lot of people feel, oh, no, I should be talking about work experience. That's all they care about. No, if you've done a master's, they want to know what you did in the master's. They want to know about your dissertation. They want to know about some of the modules because they might not have a master's themselves, or they might have done a master's in a similar subject area, but with different modules. So tell them that they are interested. So I would always start with education.
That's for a recent graduate.
Once you
start working, then this one is moved.
Yeah.
So 1 year down the line, if you have a job, start with your work experience. As you said in the very beginning, list your most current experience first.
Yes. So it could be sector specific. Mm-hmm. Sometimes where people have got a lot of work experience, I've seen them sort of say, other work experience I have been involved in, and just have a list.
Yes.
Because it isn't relevant to what they're going to, but it's showing there aren't gaps. It's like saying,
the same. Yeah. So, okay, let's talk about current students, and they start with their education. So they list their degree, university, specific modules, not every single module.
No, not every single one.
Just, again, this shows tailoring, doesn't it? What modules might be relevant for that employer, or what modules will demonstrate certain skills that you want to highlight. Mm-hmm. After that, list your dissertation project, absolutely key selling point, right?
And even achievements. If you've won an award, if you had a bursary because of, fantastic, things like that, I would be flagging. I think with achievements, anything that's past 5 years, the problem with you flagging that up is they go, oh, you were very involved here and you haven't done a lot since. You can actually put that into your interest section if you think it's something fabulous. So say, for instance, you fundraised and raised something like about £500,000, but it was 7 years ago. Put it in your interest section and say, I've got a passion for fundraising. Once I raised X amount of money for the Anthony Nolan Trust. Things like this help you to stand out. And you want it to be your authentic voice, but you also want it to be your authentic voice as it's appropriate for that organisation and for that job. So that's why I go back to the cover letter, like a dog with a bone.
Because you will keep going on that cover letter now.
Because you're talking about your motivation for the job and for the company in there. And I think the cover letter gives you that opportunity. But I do get your point. It's
no,
I
get
of
yours.
work.
I'm not arguing.
No. We are having a debate.
Depending on the context. That's my key message. Depending on the context, remain flexible and adapt. Education. So you're talking about your current education, say at master level. How about if you're an undergraduate student? Do you list your A-levels and GCSE?
A lot of recruiters say they still want to see that. But I think the difference is I would never list the school I went to. I would just say I have 3 A-levels, 7 GCSEs, and just do it that way.
Okay.
So I maybe put in the grades for the A-levels.
Yeah.
Not, you can put grades, whatever, if you want to, but it's more the A-levels that are of interest. Because some recruiters do want to know you've got maths and English, GCSE, and others do not care because they realise, oh, yes, you've gone through the system, so therefore you must have. But I think you don't have to take a lot of time up or a lot of space up with that.
Okay, good point. Moving swiftly to, like Taylor Swift.
Other singers are available.
Work experience, careers history section.
I think this is a really key point. And I think this idea, this is where people come from the position. This is what I've always put in my CV, so I will continue to put it in my CV. And you go, yeah, but what duties did you do then that are relevant to the job you're going to? And are all of them relevant? Well, if they're not all relevant, you don't have to include them. So it's that tailoring process that says, for instance, you're applying for a job where a knowledge of GDPR and confidentiality is vital. Do you have to put in that you were the person that organised the Christmas party? And that doesn't have to be one of the bullet points. So it's about thinking about, again, tailoring it to each job and also looking at the keywords in the job description. And as we've said, using their words back to them. Yeah.
And now, I think current generation or nowadays, we are quite fortunate that we have free access to AI, which can help you actually do this analysis. What are the keywords? And then match whether they exist in your CV. Nice and easy. It won't take you long.
Exactly. And AI is going to tell you exactly what a good careers consultant will tell you. Tailor it. Use the keywords. So we get
AI learned from us.
Exactly. Yes, definitely. I definitely think that when it comes to, you hear people say, oh, the buzzwords. They're not buzzwords. They are active verbs that are used to demonstrate in a shorthand what you've done and what the recruiter's looking for. So use them. You don't have to put, I collaborated. Collaborated on. Boom, get to the point.
Yeah, and get to the point what you actually achieved with that collaboration. Because collaborating is good, but the recruiters would like to understand what the impact of this collaboration was on the team, on the organization, on the project. Just bring it to life.
Yes. So talk about, increase in, reduction of this issue, that issue. So, if you look at the STAR and CAR models, they talk very much about context, action, result, and reflection. I don't think STAR is very clear on that for a lot of people, where CAR can be. The reflection is the extra R in CAR. Yeah. But I think that's really important because it's still the case the majority of recruitment is done through competency-based recruitment. Yeah. So past behaviour is an indicator of future potential. And by that, I mean you've done something and you've learnt from it.
And that's where you show it in the results and the reflection, and then you can always expand more on your learning at an interview stage.
Definitely.
So work experience, we summarize how many bullet points?
I think when I was speaking to Dill, who's one of the job search advisors at Central Team at Warwick, and she was saying probably 6 maximum for your key job, because what you don't want to do is give them blocks and blocks, and you would always bullet point, never paragraph. I think some people still tend to paragraph their education, subhead, always make it scannable. So I think it depends on 1 or 2 pages, but I wouldn't give them too much to read. I would concentrate on what are the key points. I'd make sure tick, tick, tick. I've done that.
I know some people, and I think this is quite a good one, to have a master CV, because I know when you first start doing your job applications, you want to put everything in one document. So my advice here will be create this master CV. It might be 5 pages long. To be honest, we don't care. However, when you start tailoring your CV, just take those bullet points that highlight your specific skill. It's what you say. If event organizing isn't part of your job description where you require GDPR training and compliance and so on, don't put it. Put it maybe in a different application. But just pick up those key ones and feature them on that CV. Reverse chronological orders for the day and make sure it's kind of consistent. That's one thing that I always know.
Formatting is key, because what you're doing with the formatting is you're being kind to the reader, whether they're a AI tool or whether they're a human being. At some point, a human will read it. And they don't take a lot of time, between 10 and 30 seconds to scan through a CV. And believe it or not, you can pick out all the points you need to in that time. We've done it. I think the key thing there is don't change fonts. Don't justify everything, because particularly if someone has a visual disability or is dyslexic, justifying a line makes it incredibly hard for the person to read. People don't realise that. But by the same token, try and make it as uniform as they can. The other thing that Dill talked about was research has shown from people reading things on screen, there's almost like an F model where people look up and look across at certain key points. So be aware of that, and bold your headings so they stand out, they're very clear. But just make it readable. That's my top tip.
Yes, indeed. And the other top tip is really ask someone else, ask your friend, ask another person, human being, to give you honest opinion. How quickly they can scan
through and find the information. Well, that was something I used to do with students. I would get them to share their CVs and say, okay, so tell the person what jobs you're going for and say, what does this look like? And 9 times out of 10, the person, because you think you see where you've put that in, the other person will turn around and say, well, it's a good CV, but you don't mention this and you don't mention that. And they go, well, I do that. And you go, no, you don't. And it is that casting over. I mean, obviously, you've got the opportunity to book in with job search advisors, but the job search advisors can't spell check for you. That's not what their job's about. You can use the original AI tool, spell checker, but make sure it's set to the appropriate language. Make sure it's not American English. Simple little things like this will make a difference. Same with using AI. AI will use usually American English. Change it. Some companies love AI. Some people will say, they have to use AI when they come and work for us. Others go, no, we want the authentic you. We don't want some AI version.
Yeah, we had previous discussion around that you can still keep your authenticity while using AI. And I think if nowadays people don't use it, then basically you're not in the fair game. Everyone else is using it, so make the most of it.
We haven't talked about references.
Oh no, because we don't put them anymore, do we?
Well, you can put references available on request. You can do that if you've got this. If you've got a lot of space that you haven't filled.
But we will be asked to provide references.
Yes, so you wouldn't put someone's name down. I think you can either say references available on request or just carry on talking about your interest. I think that's fine. But I think don't put people's names and addresses, because GDPR, our lovely friend, says, no, we don't want to see that. So just bear that in mind. That is, again, that's an option you can have.
Yeah,
I think if you've got a 1-page CV, I wouldn't.
I wouldn't put them.
But a 2-page CV, I think at the bottom is just a simple line. References are available on request. It shows you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
We can have another discussion around here. No,
but I would also add something else. I would say once you've done this fantastic CV and you sent it off, save a copy under the name of the company's name, because the number of people who come to me for a mock interview and went, oh, I didn't save the CV. Well, you're shooting yourself in the foot, because that's what they're working from. And you might have changed the next CV dramatically from what you provided there. So always save this copy of the CV.
Or what I say, just project manage your job applications. Set folders, set dates, set some tracking system, spreadsheets. I have some of our students do wonderful job. I'm really impressed with the systems they put in place to track their application. But this will help you later at interviews. We're going towards the end of our chat. Just to touch on the additional information, where you talk about extracurricular, awards,
I'd put them
volunteering,
in your
skills.
I would
What
put skills section. I would have.
Tell me about the skills section then.
So with a skills section, what I would not have is what employers laughingly call the shopping list approach, which is bullet pointed skills that you know they need, but you give them no evidence of. I would look at what skills I'm demonstrating through the work experience, through my course. And what I don't cover, I would specifically talk about things maybe I've done on my course or in my personal life, or really great example that I want to really enhance and put at the centre of the CV. I would have that in a skills section. What a skills section does, and this is probably a 2-page CV thing, is it's looking at the soft skills, the communication, the problem solving, the team working.
You're talking about different format of CV now,
Yes.
so you're going for
Well,
hybrid. It's not chronological.
It's a hybrid.
We move to a different format.
What they call a mixed CV.
Yeah.
And again, if you're an engineer, that is probably the preferred CV of choice of the employer. So it's being aware of the different types.
Yeah.
So if you've got no experience or if you've got a lot of experience, I would use a skills-based CV, which talks very much about it.
If you're transitioning, I think skills-based CV is very good for transitioning into different industry, because you're talking about your transferable skills.
Yes.
From one industry sector to the
another.
next one.
Yeah.
Make it easy for them. I'm with you on
Yeah.
that one.
So, I mean, realise that, yes, the traditional chronological, which tends to be the one page, is good, but it's not the only version that's out there. I would lean into the mixed, because there's so much you can talk about. And even your interest section becomes, here are the hidden skills I didn't have space to talk about because I'm so wonderful. And find your voice, because it's about being authentic.
Yeah.
And we've worked with different types of student, I think, because you're business school and I've traditionally been engineering and then psychology. So that's different kind of approaches.
It is different from people who work with the arts.
Yeah. I mean, the creative, we haven't touched the creative CVs.
No, we haven't. So they're so exciting. I love them, but I don't work with them.
That's another day. I'm getting the sign from Susan, the producer, to go, no.
Okay, Susan, we'll...
Yes.
Lovely talking to you. Hope
Always
that
great being to you.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.
Ciao.